Welcome everyone to the first seminar of the Change for Good programme. I'm so pleased that you're joining me today and I hope that you enjoy this session. Part of the way through I may ask you to stop the recording so that you can do some of the exercises with us, because I found that sometimes if we don't do them as we're going through, we tend to skip them and think that we're going to do them later, and that never happens. So welcome to the programme and let's get on. So I don't know whether you've dieted before, but if you're anything like me, then you've been a yo-yo dieter for a number of years. I was a yo-yo dieter for 35 years, so I know exactly what it's like. And you may have been on quite a number of diets. I don't know how many you've been on, but I was definitely on more than 5. I don't know whether you've been on more than 5 or less than 5, but I'd probably been on, I would think, probably 2 or 3 a year, and now I'm 56. You see, that's quite a lot to go on. So I stopped dieting about 9 years ago now, and that was the changing point really from actually losing the weight long term. So did one of those work for you short term? I know that a few of those worked for me short term, and I was always delighted with the results, and then really upset when I started to put the weight back on again. And I know a lot of people who keep a slim and a fat wardrobe, and I was one of those people, because it wasn't sustainable for me. I always viewed it as I'm either on a diet or I'm off a diet. So this Change for Good programme is about something a little bit different. So why didn't they work long term? We'll all be different. So for me, long term is because I felt like I was depriving myself of some of the things I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed things like chocolates and things like that, and I enjoyed wine at the weekends and during the week perhaps. So there were things that when I was on a diet, I just took those out because I knew that they would not help me to succeed. But as soon as I stopped my diet or I succeeded, then I just went back to my old habits. So really my habits didn't change, they only changed temporarily. And I did feel a little bit as though I was being restricted when I was eating in diet mode. And also my fridge and my cupboards looked as though I was on a diet. There was low fat things, there were low sugar things, there were lots of foods and drinks that would, now I see, would imply that I was on a diet. So I've moved away from all that since then. So long-term weight loss, I believe then that for successful long-term weight loss, it is 20% about diet and activity, whereas really it's 80% about mind and behavioural changes, and those are the key, I think, in making the long-term success changes that I've made and many of the other people who I've helped to succeed. Most diets focus on the 20%, and if you've been on lots of diets in the past, you probably know that. We all get very excited when we get our book of, you know, what we're supposed to be following, and we go out shopping and we get all the right foods in, and we are almost 80%, if not 100%, focused on the foods. And perhaps then we think about activity, even though we don't really enjoy it. Oh, we better go to the gym. We join a gym membership and we'd feel, oh, must we go today? So the focus is really on the other side of the coin, whereas I focus really on the mind and behavioural changes, because I know that makes the biggest change to us all long term. If we focus just on the diet and activity, then we become obsessed with following a diet and an exercise program. Have you ever been in that way inclined? Where I know I have, where I'm really focused and I get so obsessed about it and tell everyone this is the ultimate way to lose weight, and I'm doing so well, and you know, watch this space, and and may succeed short term, but I've never succeeded long term being focused purely on diet or purely on exercise. When it doesn't go well or go to plan, then we can feel a bit of a failure, and I felt like that numerous times when I've been on a diet program or joined a new slimming program and been in the conversations, and people say, oh, have you had a good week this week? And some people put their hands up and others sort of hide in the corner and don't want to be asked about why. We can feel a bit of a failure, and there's always those on these programs that do everything right and they lose weight every week, and they can make us feel worse too. So focusing purely on diet and exercise can make us feel like a bit of failure, and sometimes if that's the case, then we will eat or drink to make ourselves feel better. So it can be a bit of a vicious circle. So this Change for Good program is different. I knew that I had to treat it a different way for me, and I think this will work for you too. So your main focus is going to be on identifying new long-term behaviours that will work for you. You will be different to me and be different to someone sat next to you. So we need to find out what works for you and what behaviours we need to change for you that will make the biggest difference long-term. So you'll have your own individual plan, and I will help you to develop that over the next 3 months. We will be taking it very slowly. What I used to do is a 6-week program for my Slim for Good program, and that would be focusing probably 20% at least on the diet side, and perhaps a little bit more sometimes, because people kept saying, I want to know more about that type of diet. I've got a poor thyroid function. What diet will help me? I'm a diabetic. What would help me? I'm really stressed. What type of diet would help me? So I kept providing what I thought was really going to help people, and I bombarded people with lots and lots of information. But then what I found is that actually it's not having all this information, because there's so much information out there on the internet. You've probably got millions of books, millions of magazines, millions of newspapers telling you what to do. It's actually not the information that's the issue. It's actually implementing it is the biggest problem, because people feel almost overwhelmed with it. And we need to take it a bit slower. We need to give people the time, because we've got such busy lives, to actually implement these changes. And that's why I'm here for 3 months, to help you to implement these changes. And so we'll be taking it slower than perhaps any of the other programs that I've ever done before. And that's going to be a key part of your success in actually implementing these changes. And that's really exciting. This is the first time that I've done this, and it's brilliant. I can't wait to do this with you. So you can follow my Slim for Good hormone balancing diet, but it's not essential. If you like eating a certain way, if you've actually done some healthy eating program that in the past you quite enjoyed and didn't feel like a diet, then that would be good too. And I will help you to implement whatever eating program is going to work for you. So we will adapt this program to you. But I'm going to share with you a bit later the key principles of my hormone balancing diet anyway, so you can make that choice. You can include treats if you like, but what I really want you to have is some kind of sustainable rule that you can carry on for the rest of your life. So one of my rules, for example, is that if I go out to eat, then I can have a pudding as long as it's lemony or chocolate. And those are my rules. At home, I tend to not have much of a pudding, and if you came to eat in my house, you'd probably say, what's for pudding? Is it fruit and full-fat Greek yogurt? And I'd say, yes, it is. So that would be one of my short-term goals for you perhaps is to think about not having to have a dessert or a treat or something after every meal or every evening meal. So coming up with a sustainable rule around treats, because you can't not have treats. You can't not, well, I know some people do. Some people cut out all sugar and all desserts and all chocolate forever and live reasonably happily on that. I'm not one of those, and if you've been a yo-yo dieter like me, I think you may find it quite challenging too. So let's come up with something that works for you. The aim is that you are not constantly thinking about food and dieting, which is why we focus on behaviours more and our habits more than actually really focusing on food and dieting. So when you open your fridge and when you open your cupboards, they should look as though you are not on a diet. And that's what I think is so almost like freeing in this whole world of constantly being surrounded by people who are dieting. You would look in my fridge and you wouldn't think I was on a diet. And I'm not, because you don't have to be to lose weight long term. This will be similar to how naturally slim people live and eat. And this is your future. You want to be a naturally slim person, don't you? You don't want to be constantly thinking about, what am I supposed to eat today? Oh, is it a good or a bad day? I've had a bad morning, so I'm going to continue and have a bad day. You don't want to be thinking like that. So we want to be like naturally slim people live and eat. So if you want to follow the Slim for Good hormone balancing diet, then I'm going to give you the principles now, and you've got these all in your handouts anyway, but it just will give you an overview of what I tend to encourage for me, and this is the way that I eat and have done for a number of years and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. I just enjoy it. But that doesn't mean to say that I never have the occasional treat. And you may see me out having a piece of cake, but I will make sure it's a really yummy piece of cake that I'm going to enjoy. I would never eat anything that was not particularly nice just because someone gave me a piece of cake. So we would balance our blood sugar. That's the first key in losing weight long term, I believe. And the way we do that is by having protein with each meal and restricting our starchy carbohydrates to 1/4 plate. So if you think about a plate format, this format's been going for years and years, but it works. So let's say, for example, at least 1/4 of my plate will be protein. So if I had breakfast like I did today, then I had 2 eggs and I made an omelette type eggs, and I restricted myself to 1 slice of rye bread toast, and the rest of it was peppers, and I included also some spicy sausages chopped up and fried, and then I included tomatoes and things like that. So the starchy carbohydrate was my bread, so I restrict that to at least a minimum of 1/4 plate, and then at least 1/4 is going to be protein. And actually I tend to have a lot more than that because I do quite a lot of exercise and activity, so I have about 30% of my plate as protein, and then the rest will be my non-starchy carbohydrates, so that's my peppers and my tomatoes today. So that's the way I eat naturally, and I don't think about, is that 1/4? I just know the balance now, so it just feels very natural. And the reason I do that is because it makes me fuller for longer, and then I tend to have less cravings. So balancing your blood sugar is a really cool way to reduce the fat content of your body, and that's because it reduces the insulin that you're releasing into your body. And if you release a lot of insulin into your body, that's a fat storing hormone, so we don't want the fat storing hormone being released into our body constantly. So I tend to restrict how much starchy carbohydrates I have to do that. Doesn't mean to say I don't have it, because I do. I include essential fats. So again, actually today I included some avocado in my omelette. So I will have quite a lot of these essential fats every day, because I want my mind to have these good fats, because the mind needs fat, and going on a low fat diet means that we're very restricted, and you can get a little bit low if you're not careful by restricting your fat content. So I eat oily fish, avocados, olives, olive oil. I use flaxseed a lot. I sprinkle that on soups and salads and vegetables. Nuts and seeds I eat a lot too. So that may, if you've been used to a low-fat diet, you'll think, no, I can't have those, but it's important that you have the good fats. You can cut out the bad fats. I don't mind if you cut out, the fat off the meat if you have a steak. I don't mind if you cut out cheese. I don't mind if you do that at all, and also the fats in cakes and biscuits and all those things. But you do need the good fats. I balance leptin and ghrelin, and these are the two weight loss hormones that I learnt about 10 years ago, and more people are talking about them now, which is fantastic. To balance these is really easy, and I hadn't appreciated how easy it would be by just cutting out snacking, because leptin and ghrelin just need a bit of space. They need a bit of time to balance out, and if we carry on constantly eating, we don't give them time to balance, and so we will crave more carbohydrates mainly, and so that just makes it really hard to lose weight long term. So I go now 4 to 6 hours without food, and sometimes I wake up and I'm not hungry at breakfast time. Maybe I've had a big meal the night before, and I wake up and I'm not hungry. I don't eat. I'm sorry, all these people who say that breakfast is essential. It's only essential if you're hungry, and if you're not, then just wait a bit longer and take some food with you. Be prepared, have something with you, or if you're like me and you're flexible in time, just have a brunch. It's a lovely way to actually eat when you're hungry. So I always go at least 4 hours without food, and I can easily go 6 hours if I get the balance of my food right. So enough protein and non-starchy carbohydrates, and also not too much of the starchy carbohydrates. And then, my energy is good and I'm able to keep going longer. Reduce fructose. Again, fructose is not really talked about that much. It's sugar basically. So all of our carbohydrates contain a fructose content, and in your handouts you'll see my fructose chart, like a traffic light, so green, amber and red. So what we're trying to aim is 80% of the time to be in the green section. Occasionally, of course, you're going to have things in the red section. That's not a problem, and you can control it as long as you keep most of the time into the green section. So we just want to have low fructose, so that if we contain low fructose diet most of the time, then we have less cravings. And if you have less cravings, then you're not going to be feeling as though you're being denied, because you don't think about food and you don't think about all those sweet things that perhaps you've thought about in the past. Eliminate artificial sweeteners. I used to be a huge artificial sweetener fan. I used to have it in my tea and in coffee. I would have sprinkled on cereals. What else would I do? I would also buy chocolate bars that had these type of things in, because I thought I was being good. And what I hadn't appreciated is that by having these artificial sweeteners, it was just setting me up to fail basically, because they make you crave more sweet things. And as soon as I took them out, I moved firstly to xylitol. So I'd start to have xylitol. I don't like stevia. You may like the flavour of it, but I don't personally. So xylitol I use, and you can buy it in Waitrose and other supermarkets, and it tends to be called something called Perfect Sweet or just xylitol. And so I would use that initially when I came away from other artificial sweeteners, and I still do use it occasionally if I'm cooking anything and it needs a bit of sweetness. But it just made me crave more, so it was just easier to almost move away. And now I hardly ever use xylitol or stevia. Occasionally I might use a little bit of agave nectar, only because I quite like the taste of it, but it's not as sweet as honey, and just adds a little bit to fruit, perhaps, if you need it, or to a Greek yogurt if you just want a tiny bit of sweetness. But otherwise I tend to steer away from those. I do keep to a maximum of 6 added teaspoons of sugar a day. So I know basically by what I buy, and if anything's in a packet, I always check the sugar content. So to do this, you go to the ingredients and it says carbohydrates, of which sugar is, and it tells you how many grams of sugar for that portion that you're having. And then you just divide it by 4, and that tells you how many teaspoons you're having, and that will be then restricted to 6. So 6 for women, and this is aimed mainly at women, but if you're a man who's watching, welcome to you, and then you're allowed to have 9 teaspoons. So stick to that and you'll be fine. Keep hydrated. I like to come up with habits. So a new habit for me is to have about a pint before each meal, and I find that works for me. That's 1.5 litres a day, and then I just have more of it when I'm exercising. And I like hot water to drink, or herbal teas. I like hot water and lemon first thing in the morning. So, and I keep to decaf. I don't. You know, I can't remember the last time I had a caffeinated drink, but I do occasionally, but I'd never have it unless I was eating something, because what it does is it brings your blood sugar balance out of balance, and I don't want that. So I tend to stick to make myself as hydrated as possible. And if you come to my sessions, then you'll get a printout, body composition printout, and that shows how hydrated you are. So we want to get you as hydrated as possible so that you don't crave more food, because you'll crave it if you're dehydrated. So it's time to stop sabotaging your efforts. I'm sure we've all done this in the past, where we're just doing so well and then something happens, we just sabotage it all and we go completely off track. I don't want you to set yourself up for failure. I really want you now to start with small achievable changes that you know are maintainable and sustainable. I want you to choose from the list of recommended behaviours that over the last 8-9 years of doing this, I've made a list of all those changes and habits and behaviours that people have incorporated to be successful. So you have a handout like that in your pack, example new behavioural habits. And what I want you to do is to take your highlighter pen now, stop this recording, and I want you to go through this list and highlight those that you think you could achieve and you think could be sustainable long term for you. So we want to then pick a number of those, and we will just work with those in the first week. So just stop it now, and when you're ready, come back to me. Do it now. Okay, and now welcome back. I hope that you did that now and you didn't just skip ahead, because it's too easy to do that sometimes. And now I want you to make a list of challenges that you want to overcome, so that you can share them with me, either by email or by WhatsApp or Messenger, any way that you want to share it with me. I want you to share with me so that I can help you work on those challenges so that we can overcome them and that you can succeed this time. Okay, so again, stop the clock, stop this recording and do it now. So, new behaviours. Just imagine the new behaviours that you would have if you were a naturally slim person. Do you know a naturally slim person? Can you think what their behaviours are? What do they do around food and activity? What do they do that you think, that's interesting? I've only just really thought about that, but that is one of their behaviours. So what habits would a naturally slim person have? Just think about someone you know. What is their initial habit? I was talking with a naturally slim person actually recently and said, what's one of your habits? Do you have breakfast, for example? And she said, no, only if I'm hungry. So naturally slim person doesn't automatically think they've got to eat breakfast. So I said, if you're not hungry, how long would you wait? Would you do that even if you're exercising? Absolutely, she said. If I'm not hungry, I'd go and exercise and then eat when I get back. And I said, and you wouldn't panic about it? You wouldn't have to take a snack with you? No, she said. No, I'd just pick something up when I got back. And I said, but what about that grumbling tummy? Would you feel that that was okay? Absolutely, I like that feeling. So that's one of the habits that I've really worked on over these last 9 years, to not panic when I'm hungry. Because I used to be what they call hangry and angry, and I used to get to that stage where I wouldn't want to be around me because it would be like an emergency. Emergency, Karen's not had any food, she needs food, let's get food, let's stop now so she can have some food. Whereas actually I'm okay. I don't panic about it anymore. I'm happy to wait until I'm ready, until I'm really hungry, and then I go and find food then. It's not the emergency that it used to be. What environment would a naturally slim person have? Would they have chocolate bars in the car? Would they go and buy from every garage when they stop for petrol? Would they buy crisps and cakes and biscuits and sausage rolls and donuts and all those things that they sell it? Would they do that not automatically? Would they just buy petrol? Would they just pay for it and get in their car? Yeah, I think they would. Would their house be overflowing with all those things that perhaps we know aren't helping us to achieve our goals? Would they look in their fridge and think it was a diet fridge? Low-fat yogurts, diet snack bars, skimmed milk. Would they do that? No, I don't think they would they? You talk to your naturally slim friends and see what their fridge and their cupboards look like. You will get the occasional person who perhaps eats a lot of junk foods and is naturally slim. But that's really unusual. Really, most naturally slim people are really not bothered about those things. They have them occasionally, but they don't have them constantly. Our success is shaped by our external environment. If you continue to buy those foods, if you continue to keep them in your house, if you continue to eat in junk food places and have fast food takeaways constantly, then that is your external environment and you'll find it really hard to change. We need to change our external environment to just make it feel healthier and happier. Changing your environment and external factors, even things like doing your hair or your clothes or just buying different food purchases, not diet related, but just healthier food choices. Not buying junk food, not going to places where you're surrounded by junk foods. Then you'll change your thoughts and your behaviours. It's quite simple really. We just need to start to act differently so that we automatically behave differently. If your environment conflicts with your personal rules, then you'll have a struggle. You'll have a willpower battle, or you'll just give in to the bad environment and eat what's surrounding you. So if you come and look in my cupboards, not overly exciting. I would honestly say that some of my cupboards and fridge are pretty boring really, but I know what works for me. I know that if I buy lots of cakes and biscuits and crisps because I think I'm pleasing other people, I might eat them. So I don't buy them. I just buy what I find is healthy for me. So I buy some oat cake biscuits, I buy, some sweet oat biscuits occasionally, I buy some dark chocolate, I buy fruit and I buy Greek yogurt. Those are the sweetest things you'll find in my fridge. But I don't buy low fat dairy. I buy, semi-skim milk, I buy coconut and almond milk, full fat. My fridge doesn't look like a diet fridge, but it doesn't conflict with my personal rules. My environment enhances my personal rules because that's the way I want to live. You can change your patterns and your roles. You just need to set some boundaries and expectations. So I want you to give I thought, this week is all about identifying your behaviours so that we can start to implement new ones that you enjoy too. These can't be things that you don't enjoy, so we have to work with what you want. It's essential to use the power of your subconscious mind. To train our minds to want food for energy and alcohol for occasional relaxation. Otherwise, our minds will do what it can to protect us. That's its job. Its job is to protect us and to make us feel safe and happy. So if it thinks that junk foods make you feel happy, and they do maybe temporarily, but not long term, do they? It will do, and it will encourage you to eat and drink those things that it thinks is making you safe and happy, and it's protecting you in that way. So what we need to do is to encourage you to do things that produce these feel-good hormones instead of just using eating and drinking to do that. Reliance increases. That's the problem. If you keep eating and drinking to make yourself feel better, then you'll consume more you have to consume more to get that same feeling. And that increases and increases, and that's why people binge eat, because one piece of chocolate is not enough. One bar of chocolate is not enough. And I've been a binge eater, and it's not a nice place to be. So we need to change that reliance, and the only way we can change that reliance is really by focusing on our subconscious mind rather than using our conscious mind. Your hypnosis recordings are key. They will increase your strength, your determination, and reduce your negative habits, but only if you listen to regularly. But hypnosis really does work. So don't try and use just your conscious mind to make changes. Your conscious mind is where your willpower, your short-term memory, your logical thinking and your critical thinking takes place. And all those things are pretty negative actually. And I've tried to diet just with my conscious mind, and I promise you it doesn't work. Please do this the easy way. And it may take a little bit of effort to plug me into you as you're going off to sleep. But it's not that much effort, I promise you. You can go off to sleep quite easily, and then it just turns itself off and you go off into a deep sleep. Using your subconscious mind, that grows your beliefs, your emotions, changes your habits, it changes your values. It's very protective reactions, it's your long-term memory, it's also your imagination and your intuition. So all those wonderful skills that you have deep within you that will change and help you to change long term. So please, please listen to your hypnosis recordings. I'm doing this for a reason. They really do help. And I promise you, those that do this will be successful. So the best time to listen to your recordings is on going to sleep or on awakening. And this is because you're in what we call the alpha theta brainwave time. And you go in those lots of times through the day. This is when we're on automatic pilot. We're driving to a familiar place, so we're not thinking about how we're not thinking about how we get there, we're just doing it on automatic pilot. But also alpha theta brainwaves also we also go into them when we read a good book or we're engrossed in a movie, and so those are the times when you really want to make sure that you're using those brainwaves. Alpha theta is not in your conscious mind, it's your subconscious mind. Changing those beta brainwaves, your conscious mind then doesn't have to work long term. So you can use that, because if you use your beta brainwaves, which is when you're in your conscious mind, then that's where challenge is really, really hard. So making changes is so challenging, and so you'll really struggle long term. So make sure that you listen to these when you go into alpha theta brainwaves. So best times on going to sleep or when you're awakening, but you can do it during the day, because I would send you into a relaxed state when you go into alpha theta anyway. So those who do this really succeed, so please keep doing that. Your 3-month goal then. Your 3-month goal, I want you to write down your goal and to read it daily, because this builds your belief and your desire. Your subconscious mind is simple. It will make your goal happen if you are specific enough and you keep repeating it. So, you know, it's just so simple, but you need to make sure that it's done. If you don't write it down and don't read it regularly, then you'll be taken back to your old behaviours where your mind thinks that you're happy and where you want to be. So your reasons must motivate and sparkle to attract you. What I want them to be is, I don't want them to be goals that feel like a struggle. You know, if you put, I want to lose 2 stone, oh my God, doesn't that feel like a struggle? But if you put, you know, I really want to feel alive and fit and healthy and vibrant, and that's enlightening. It's not a struggle, because it's motivating and it draws you towards it. So don't make your goals feel as though they're a struggle. We'll be doing weekly goals too. These are sort of powerful and simple but very effective part of the programme, and they're basically just a tick list of things that you can do to build that momentum. They build your belief and your momentum and your determination, and they identify behavioural goals that you can achieve every day or every week. So these won't be focused mainly on foods. These will be on maybe having protein with every meal. These could be, let's go 4 to 6 hours without food. You know, there's so many in your list that could make the biggest difference to you. Go through them, come up with some, even if you just choose 3 or 5 this week. Just do a tick list with those and focus on that. Small changes, small behaviours, and you'll be amazed at the results. And then include within these little goals reading your goal sheet to motivate and inspire you, and listening to your hypnosis, because I promise you they're key. I want to share with you a technique that I share with everyone, because I think it's so amazing and I really want to get you using this regularly. Emotional stress release is so simple, but many people do question it, and many people think it's too simple to work. It's magical for emotional eating, for overcoming stress, for overcoming cravings, anything that you have that maybe could be affecting your weight. And you can gain immediate relief with it, and the most amazing thing is that it can be permanent relief too. So what you need to do is focus on one issue at a time. So say I'm at night and I'm getting a real craving for some chocolate. I've got some 85–90% dark chocolate, but I want dairy milk chocolate. Not that I can remember the last time I had a craving for dairy milk chocolate. So I'm thinking, shall I get in the car and shall I go and buy some? And so I think, no, I'm going to do my emotional stress release technique first and then see how I feel. so no pressure. So what you do is focus on that one issue, and then you put your fingers with a very light touch, hardly touching your forehead, between your hairline and your eyebrows. So a very light touch, and then move your fingers up about 1 millimetre or 2 towards your hairline. And then while you're doing that, then focus on maybe that craving. Oh, I really fancy Dairy Milk chocolate. I really fancy Dairy Milk chocolate. I really fancy Dairy Milk chocolate. I fancy Dairy Milk chocolate. I could get in the car and I could drive there. That sort of thing you're saying over and over in your mind. Why do I fancy Dairy Milk chocolate? What can I do instead that perhaps might make me feel better? The magic is the longer you do this and focus on the problem, the harder it gets to do so. So it just seems to disappear. It's magical, I promise you, so please do it. It takes a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, and that emotion, that stress, those cravings can just disappear. It's as simple as that. So fingers here, move them up to the hairline, focus on what the one issue is. What is really upsetting you? What are you stressed about? What's giving you that craving? And then feel it just melt away. It's magical. Please do it. So your action for this week is to write your goal sheet, to make it inspiring, make it feel as though this is the time I'm actually going to do this. So you just say, you know, what am I going to feel like when I achieve my goal? How am I going to look? How am I going to feel? How am I going to think? And then just write your goal as though you've achieved it, as though you're already there, and make it uplifting and enlightening, no struggling at all. And then set your initial behavioural change goals, and then I want you to tick those daily as you do them, so that you build up that momentum and that belief. And then listen to your recording. You've got one this week, and you'll have a new recording for each session that you have. And the great thing about these is that you'll find 1 or 2 that really motivate and resonate with you. When you find that, stick with it. You don't have to use all the others. You can come back to the ones that you really, really like. And then keep in regular contact with me and the group. This is important because this is a two-way conversation. This is me motivating you. This is you motivating yourself. This is the group motivating our whole group development and our success. We can do this individually, but it's so much better doing it with someone else. I am your weight loss buddy. I'm going to help you get to where you need to be. So stick with me and you'll be surprised at how well you do. So have a fantastic week. Until the next time, take care. Bye.